Hello everyone, I am Sanjeev Panday and today this is third video on the chapter last lesson from Flamingo. Up to now we know that there was war between France and Prussia. Prussia defeated France and France had to give two districts of Alsace and Lorraine to Prussia. In this way these two districts came under the control of army of Prussia. Then there was total change in the life of the people, in the system of education. Now we know that there was a little boy, French, he was going to school. On the way, he met a large crowd that was gathered in front of the bulletin board. The people were gathered there to know what type of bad news were coming from the bulletin board. And there the boy met one blacksmith. He was also there. He was also reading the news. And the blacksmith told the boy not to make haste to go to school. He told him that he would not be late to reach the school. But the boy did not listen to the advice of the blacksmith. He continued to walk, to run, to go to school as fast as he could. And ultimately, he reached the garden of M. Hamel, who was his teacher. When he reached, he was panting. But he found that today the school was totally different from the school he used to find on usual days. Let us see what happened. Usually, when school began, there was a great whistle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks. Lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now it was also still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places, and and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how blessed and how frightened I was. Now let me explain the para. Usually when the school began, there was a great whistle. Little French is saying that now the school was totally different. When school used to start, there was too much noise of activities, this and that, children crying, opening the desk, making noise. But today the school was totally silent. Let us see. Usually when the school began, little French is saying, usually on common days when the school used to start, there was a great whistle, there was a great noise of activity, of commotion, which could be heard out in the street. Usually there was so much noise that this type of noise could be heard from outside of the school. What type of noises? See, the opening of the desk, the opening of the bag, this and that, and closing of desk, opening and closing of the desk. When you open and close the desk, there is noise. Such type of noises could be heard on usual days. But today, there was complete silence. Lessons repeated in unison. Listen, generally what happens? Children repeat lessons, any chapter in unison means together in chorus. As small kids repeat A for apple, B for boy, like this together. In this type of noises could be heard on usual day. But today, there was no such type of activity. Lessons repeated in unison. Lessons that were repeated together in chorus. But today, there was no noise of repeating such type of lessons very loudly. And usually, these lessons were repeated in very loud noise, in very loud voice. But today, there was complete silence. With our hands over our ears to understand better. Generally what happens, When the lessons are repeated in class, in chorus together, in unison, small children put their hand over their ears so that noise may not enter their ears and they can understand the lessons clearly like this. But today there was no such type of activity. And very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better. Generally, children used to repeat the lesson in unison loudly and they used to put their hands over their ears to understand the chapter's lesson in better way so that the noise of the class may not enter their ear. And the teacher's great ruler rapping means tapping on the table. Tapping means striking. Mostly when the class is going on, to control the class, teacher taps the ruler on the desk to make the children silent. In the same way, teacher's great ruler rapping. Generally what used to happen? Class was going on, children were repeating the lessons in unison and teacher used to take round. Teacher used to take round with his ruler. Rapping is tapping, striking on the table to create fear in the mind of the children to make them silent. But today, such type of activities were not there. And but now it was all so still. The boy was surprised. The boy was totally surprised. He could not know what was the reason that the school was so silent. That's why the exclamatory mark. But now it was so still. But today the school was very silent, very silent. There was no noise. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. Generally, what used to happen? Actually, friends used to come late and there was noise. The children were busy in repeating the lessons and teacher taking the round, and ultimately friends used to get chance to enter the class without anybody seeing. So I had counted. Counted means relied on, trusted, believed. He had relied on. Counted means relied. I had counted on the commotion to get into my desk. Generally, he used to rely, he used to dependent on the commotion means hustle and bustle, noise and activities to get the chance to enter the class without anybody seeing him. But today there was total silence. Everybody was alert. There was no noise, no teaching, all were sitting silent, so he could not get chance to enter the class without anybody seeing. Try to understand the line. I had counted, basically he had relied on the commotion, on the noise and activity to get to means enter my desk without being seen, without anybody seeing. But of course, but really, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. But that day, when friends reached the school, that day school was totally silent as it used to be on Sunday morning. Mostly schools are off on Sunday morning. In the same way, this day when friends reached the school was totally silent as on Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmate, and he peeped through the window and he saw that his classmates were sitting in the class. When little boy friends reached the school, he saw through the window that his classmates were sitting already in their places on their seats. And he saw through the window, he peeped through the window and he looked through the window he saw that his classmates were already sitting, and M. Hamel walking up and down, and M. Hamel, his teacher, was walking up and down in very serious mood, with a terrible is horrible, frightening iron ruler, means scale, and scale. Terrible means actually children were frightened by the ruler of M. Hamel. The ruler was frightening for the children. That's why the word terrible has been used. And M. Hamel walking up and down. And M. Hamel was walking up and down in the class with a terrible iron ruler under his arm. As you might have seen your teachers putting ruler or scale in her underarm and walking to maintain the discipline in the class. In the same way, M. Hamel was walking up and down in the class to maintain the discipline and silence. I had to open the door. I miss little boy French had to open the door. The boy had to open the door and go in and enter. Go means enter before everybody. Before everybody. The boy opened the door and entered the class. See, everybody was silent. M. Hamel was also in serious mood, barking up and down in the class. So today, the atmosphere of the school, of the class, was totally different from the school on usual days. The school was as much silent as it used to be on Sunday morning. So the boy, little French, felt very strange. See what he felt. You can imagine, boy saying to us, you can imagine how bliss means here felt shy. How I felt the boy, how much shyness the boy felt, and how frightened means fearful I was. The boy saying when he entered the class, he felt too much shyness, too much fear. He was shy because he was late. And how frightened, how fearful. He felt too much afraid because of his strict teacher M. Hamel. Now para is complete. This is only for today. Homework will be uploaded on WhatsApp. Thank you.